I think it's really important to stay open to different viewpoints. Whatever that grievance is that is very vocal and sometimes actually quite violent and disturbing, it's coming from something. And
Mhm.
to just wipe it away as ignorant or misinformed, or whatever word gets thrown in all directions, that's not helping. It's not motivating. And when I go the other way, when I stay really open, I'm like, wow, this is another way of experiencing the world that I didn't understand. I learned, for example, climate, carbon tunnel vision. Whoa, it's a thing. And I've propagated it. I've been at the table doubling down on those net zero ambitions. I've been there pushing for more and more, detailed carbon disclosures. Whoa, what am I missing? And when I widen and go, well, I'm missing biodiversity. And when you go into biodiversity, the journey is beautiful. The people
Yeah.
you meet, the things you find out. So we need to really, truly stay open.
In this example of listening to one another, of course, we have people who are very active and advocating for climate, behaviors and sustainability. And then there's the so-called climate skeptics. And if we are to trust that every human being in both sides of this divided world holds some wisdom, what wisdom is there in the climate skeptics or the climate deniers? And it might not be necessarily that they're, anything regarding, like, the science is all real, but could that skepticism be coming from a place of, I think, maybe observing that we don't have the whole story, meaning that there's this narrow focus on carbon emissions and not, as you say, biodiversity and all the other contributors. Is that where skepticism is coming from? Is there some wisdom there that's picking up on a sort of blindness on the other side that people are trying to reflect back in some way? And I think that's a perfect example of the importance of having to trust that even in the most crazy or conspiracy oriented ideas, what is being reflected back that people on the other side are not seeing?
Those comments that get made about climate skeptics and deniers, I've been recently digging a lot more into those and learning that, of course, all of these people are not climate skeptics and deniers. There are people who have views that don't align with that narrative.
Right. And they get automatically lumped and labeled into that
Lumped,
category.
big bucket of people who disagree with what is obviously correct. And so they are deniers. They are the anti something that doesn't align with me. And in fact, this is where the most fruitful, thoughtful, detailed, the homework some of these people do, I look and think, good Lord, I didn't actually look at the IPCC report that closely, but you did. And when I follow your footnotes, because I'm a footnote follower, I don't take in pretty much any mainstream media. I take in a lot of diverse independent voices. And when it's footnoted, I follow the footnote. I'm like, where'd that come from? Who paid for it? Did you misquote it? Did you just take one line? And I gotta say, these folks are doing real homework. They're doing a real service for the world. They're not denying, or I keep saying they, what I'm looking at, the work of a lot of people, these are people who are not denying that the climate is changing. They are suggesting that the way it's being addressed is problematic.
Yeah.
And there are other ways to address it, maybe even better ways. So I say all that to say that is what I believe it looks like to not be polarized. As soon as you've heard me do it a couple times in the last minute, as soon as I hear myself saying they, I'm like, wait, why am I using that word? Am I using it to group people?
I wish I could just take that last 5 minutes there and like use that as like the as like the promotion for this podcast.